for one more day.
Welcome to the Dynasty Happy Hour. And no, I am not Doug Eddy. I am James Crease, filling in for Doug this week as host. Join with me is Tyler Gunther and our special guest, Jeff Bell, at For Whom J. Bell Tolls. And we are brought to you live on YouTube, 9/8 Central, every Sunday. So hit that like and subscribe button. If you like what you hear, you want to see us live, perfect place to do it. Jeff, what's going on, my man? Thank you for coming in. I'm super psyched to have you on the show. We kind of came up through the ranks together, but you blasted past me through the atmosphere. So much bigger tiers there. And speaking of tiers, Mr. Tyler, what's going on tonight, bud?
Well, Jeff went to a better team. James got stuck with Jacksonville, but he got a lot of money. So like he's like the Christian Kirk, but you know, Jeff is like Chris Godwin. He went to Tom Brady. So that's kind of where it's at. I mean, that's a great comparison. Welcome to the Jags, Jeff.
Hey, and I no, we're all on the same level. I mean, no, I'm not gonna have any of that. And Chef, you're my boy. You know, we do Coming Off the Edge Tuesday nights at 7:00. And
Great
so
show.
Catch us there. We love hanging out with Chef and Tyler. I've always looked up to you, and I'm so thankful to be able to share this space with you.
Sorry.
You know, but you're just so welcoming in the space, and you do a really great job of helping people move. You've done more for people in the space than many people have, and you know, that's something that should be realized and should be appreciated.
Yeah, that's honestly, Chef can agree to this. When we had the website, the one thing I really miss about it is that's what I wanted. I knew we weren't the end game for anybody, but we were a stepping stone for people to go to a company like Football Guys or DLF or Nerds. We were just somebody who, you know, that they could get their name out, and anybody was really welcome. And my main thing that I told any writer was, if you've reached an audience of just one person and that article hit that one person, your article did it. Like, you did what you needed to do because you helped out that one person, and that's what we're here for.
Speaking of audiences, this podcast is brought to you by Fantasy Points. We are part of the Fantasy Points Media Group. Use our code DHH22 to get 10% off your Fantasy Points subscription. 90% of subscribers make the playoffs in 2020 and 2021. They're balling over there. It's the lowest price in the industry. They have a DFS optimizer, analytically powered draft tool. It's definitely the place you want your fantasy information to come from. Check out Fantasy Points. And we're going to check out some wide receivers this evening. We already mentioned that. But first, let's get into some news. We've got Brandon Cooks, 2-year, $39 million extension, $36 million guaranteed with the Houston Texans. He will be there through 2024. Happy Davis Mills. That's the way I look at it. I mean, do we need to say anything else? Like, they're going to be linked up for at least a couple more years?
Well, I mean, if Davis Mills runs with the job and is the quarterback, but you know, I think the reality of it is Brandon Cooks had obviously moved around the league quite frequently, and he found a home in Houston. He wanted to be there. The Texans are still in their building phase, so they were happy to have a veteran that was happy to be with the team. They rewarded Brandon Cooks. And, you know, I think that kind of the theme of this move, maybe some of the other moves, is you rewarding your guys, rewarding the leaders in the locker room. And that's what the Texans did with Brandon Cooks.
I really can't say anything else. 100%.
I was going to say 100%. Like, it's big for Davis Mills, who loved to target him. I think it'll help Nico Collins, who is a perfect complement to Brandon Cooks. They're completely different players. So honestly, this team is, I know we like to bash on the Texans, but they're doing it right. And they have capital now. Thank you, Cleveland, to build a almost juggernaut. Like, they got the Larry Tunsil stuff kind of figured out and how he seemed like he's unhappy, but now he's back. And now we're sitting here, you know, thinking, hey, Houston could be good.
Maybe not this year, but definitely next year. I think they take a big step forward.
Yeah, I mean, they had the run of Bill O'Brien just handing out draft picks left and right, so they're resetting that now after
they got bobbed. They got bobbed for sure. Melvin Gordon visiting the Ravens this week. They picked up some older players last year in fill-ins when J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards went down early in preseason. They wound up with Devontae Freeman. They wound up with Latavius Murray. So they're not afraid to go out and get a veteran to fill the void while these two are still rehabbing their injuries from last season. If Melvin Gordon goes to the Ravens, does that just wipe the fantasy value out of the Ravens backfield completely, especially with Lamar Jackson taking a lot of snaps?
I think it deletes Gus Edwards from really being very interesting. That's the first one I go to. I think it says a lot about how they view J.K. Dobbins, though. I think it says a lot about his injury recovery, and it says a lot about long term. I'm seeing a lot of people saying that J.K. Dobbins would be a great buy, but them making this move strikes to me as they view J.K. Dobbins as a part of a committee backfield, and the idea that he's going to be the bell cow stud RB1 first round draft pick guy kind of goes out the window for me on this, because, the reality of it is we lost his second season, his third season, if he's splitting time with Melvin Gordon, or if they're using draft capital to bring a guy to share time with, because that's the other question. And yeah, it's certainly different to sign a veteran versus bringing draft capital, but Melvin Gordon's not going anywhere to not play. And that's the reality of the situation with him. So that says a lot about how they view Dobbins. And you're looking at getting through his rookie contract before he really has an opportunity to run with the job.
Yeah, for me, I'm in the camp where I'm actually trying to ship him off. I know it was a little too late. I actually did it in a couple leagues already. And for me, just the way the offense is, Lamar not throwing the ball to the backfield, all that fun stuff. We already had questions about him. Now we're sitting here wondering, okay, they're talking about a running back falling to them and then possibly drafting. Then Melvin Gordon, like there's flags popping up to where we actually need to look at him instead of being like, no, he's a buy. Like that's kind of poor on us thinking that these red flags are nothing and we're just going to put on our blinders and think J.K. Dobbins is a top 12 running back. If he's going to land in an area, I would probably say David Montgomery area, probably worse because Montgomery gets passing work. So if it were me, I would love to go to the Montgomery owner and be like, hey, I'll take Montgomery for Dobbins, see how that works, and I'd be happy having
Straight
Montgomery. Up. I mean, you might be able to get a little extra too.
Ooh.
And you're going to get probably 30 more points just from the catches alone, because I don't think Dobbins is going to be the pass catcher.
Fair. I like it. Speaking of pass catchers, Stefon Diggs gets a huge extension. And Jeff, I know you are a diehard Bills fan. How does it make you feel to see Stefon Diggs getting 4-year, $104 million and locked in until 2027 with your home team, Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I think something
You're
that
welcome.
people need, hey,
you're welcome for Diggs.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And it helps Josh Allen out. So no, but I think what people need to understand is when Ralph Wilson was the owner, there was a constant cycle of, like, I remember taking, Stephon Gilmore as an example, but even going further back, Nate Clements, like these guys that we'd take these draft picks as the Bills organization, they would hit in the first round, they would hit free agency, and they were gone. And then we were constantly on that cycle of reusing draft picks on either running backs or cornerbacks that they went on to bigger and better things. Marshawn Lynch, Willis McGahee. So I think that there's been a real culture change after Terry Pagula took over, but particularly with Sean McDermott and with Brandon Beane there, where they're saying that we're going to reward the leaders in the locker room. We're going to set that example that if you excel here, we're going to take care of you. And I think that goes a long way with an organization. And I think that it permeates the whole culture that, guys are willing to buy in, willing to fight. They're willing to believe that the team is going to take care of them versus trying to squeeze every last dime out of them and then turning around and flipping them. Maybe there might be some teams in the Bills division that got away with that for multiple years, but now that they don't have their all-time greatest quarterback anymore, that might be, I don't know if that culture can continue if you're not winning. And so I'm really thankful that the ownership has made that step forward. And I think it's easy to sit back and say, well, they wasted a bunch of money on his non-prime years, but I just think that culture doesn't get realized enough, especially in our fantasy space. People don't realize the things that how these teams are built and able to build upon themselves.
No, I completely agree with that. And Diggs, you kind of saw him in Minnesota not really get along with Kirk Cousins, and
a little.
It became an issue. And I don't know what it was with Kirk Cousins. I mean, you can kind of see Jefferson starting to, some things Kirk does gets on his nerves. So he gets along perfectly with Josh Allen. He was an amazing talent. I mean, I went back and looked at his 24/7 scouting report, and I mean, this kid should have been Alabama, LSU, but he stayed at Maryland to stay home. And I mean, it worked out. Fifth round pick. That sucked, but man, he's getting paid and he's doing well, and it is well deserved. I miss Diggs here. I mean, he was our savior for that 2017 against the Saints, that Minneapolis Miracle play, where, I mean, let's be honest, the safety just didn't want to hit him. So, Diggs is a great player. I 28 years old, and people are still kind of like, okay, now we can sell him. It's like, no, you got like 3 really good years out of Diggs still. I don't think he's going to fall off. His style of play is here to stay, kind of like Antonio Brown.
Yeah, he was a signing day decision between Ohio State and one of Urban Meyer's first recruiting classes, and Urban wanted him to play the Percy Harvin role, and then he stayed at Maryland.
Yeah, imagine if he was that Percy Harvin role. I don't think his career would be the same, because I think when he went to Maryland, he was more of that traditional wide receiver. I know he did a lot of different things in Maryland, he got some handoffs in the backfield, but I mean, him and DJ Moore were kind of used similar in college, and I mean, it shows. They're kind of the same type of player.
They got a couple more guys coming too. Raheem Jarrett is legit, and that's going to be a name that you're going to look out for in the 23 class.
Oh, he's speaking Devy to us right now, Tyler.
Mean, that last name Jarrett, there's been a couple players in Devy throughout like 5 to 10 years that have been hyped, so he should carry this last name well, hopefully, because none of them really panned out.
I have a feeling that Diggs does pan out, and he brings your Bills a championship. You guys will raise a trophy. And for you fantasy players out there that love trophies, check out Trophy Smack. Upgrade your fantasy league today. They have football, hockey, basketball, baseball. Hey, you want a golf trophy because you play fantasy golf? Your Masters started or ended their first round today, or their last round today. Sorry, shout out Scheffler for winning. He's got his first green jacket. Appreciate that. Well, if you play fantasy golf, you want a trophy? Hit up Trophy Smack. Use our code DHHRing and get a free $60 championship ring with the purchase of any trophy or belt. They have all the stuffs for your losers as well. So if you like to send toilet bowls in the mail, Trophy Smack's your spot. Check them out. And once again, use our promo code DHHRing at checkout for your free ring. All right. Who wants to talk some wide receivers? Because obviously I've talked long enough. So this class is especially unique in the sense that it's pretty deep, but there is a definite tier break after the first couple guys. I want to say personally, that's how I feel. There's about 7 guys that should go in the first day or early second day of the draft in the NFL draft.
For me, it's one in his own tier, and it's been like that since his freshman year. And I'll get to that after Jeff kind of goes through his evaluation and his number one. But for me, it's one person, and I think he's elite. He is Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb style of play, and that's his comp for me.
Like, wow. I can't wait to hear about that.
I'm pretty sure you guys know who it is. I mean,
if you're going there,
I know who it is. I know who it is.
If you're going there, I think we have the same number one overall. My number one overall is Garrett Wilson in this class, and I think this class right now I'm sitting at a tier of 4 at the top. But I think that the thing of it is, you mentioned that we might get 7, maybe even 8. Because I think the valuation of wide receiver has increased with the contracts that we've seen given out. And so I think that you're going to see teams that want to get that 5th year on guys.
Yep.
So that's going to push guys into the first round. So I think maybe you can get up to 8. I have 4 kind of in an elite tier, but it's weird in this class because what you're looking at is if there really is that 4 at the top and they kind of go, they're getting tied to lesser quarterbacks. And then if you've got guys going in the back half of the first round, if they're getting Aaron Rodgers, they're getting Patrick Mahomes, they're getting potentially Josh Allen as their quarterback, you might have a little bit of a flip going on, and that tier expands, and rankings are going to get really shuffled.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Definitely the beginning of the shuffle, just waiting for the NFL draft.
Enough with the wait. Let's just get it over with. I mean, you can see it on Twitter. Everybody's, doing these kind of quizzes on different things. Like, people just need it because we need content to push us through this period of time. Garrett Wilson for me, he's everything you want in a receiver. He's got the vertical, he's got finesse route running. I mean, I see people saying the other Ohio State receivers are a better route runner. No, I don't think so. He may be a little more quote unquote fluid, but I think Garrett Wilson, he's got some things to work on. But once they're like tiny, tiny things, and once that happens, you're going to see that jump. You're going to see the elite jump into all I see is Justin Jefferson out of this kid. Like, it's the route running, it's the athleticism, it's the run after the catch. He's just the whole package. And I mean, if Atlanta takes him at 8, good night. I mean, that's my team. It's Kyle Pitts all over again. It's 2 years straight of falling in love. I don't know if I have enough love in my heart for both Pitts and Wilson, but I will make sure there's room at the end of the day.
But the scary thing is, does Marcus Mariota have enough firepower to?
Does he have the oomph?
Garrett Wilson and Kyle Pitts both hit. That's the only thing. I certainly understand and respect that you want him to land with your team, and I think that would be a great spot for him. Certainly going into the top 10 would be fantastic for him. But I'm on the same place with you. I think Justin Jefferson's an easy comp. Deontay Johnson, he's a similar type player as that. These are just the guys that they eat volume in NFL offenses now, and that's what you want for fantasy football. And that's where I have Garrett Wilson as number 1 as well. It's just an easy projection into that role that he is able to separate. He's able to get those quick underneath routes, run after the catch, and that's really what teams are craving in offenses right now.
So I ordered JJ Zacharyason's late round prospect guide, and you brought up Deontay Johnson, and I mean, his 3 comps, his comparables in his guide are Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and 1 Deontay Johnson. And you know what? People kind of are like, I don't think people really like Deontay Johnson as much as they should.
People don't like Jerry Jeudy as much as I guess they should.
Well, there's one person I know, and that's Chef. The thing with Jeudy is he's the route runner. Like, he is a very, 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 very good route runner. And if you see him play, he's open. It's just you had Drew Lock throwing him the ball. I mean, how many worms died in Denver for Drew Lock to be that starting quarterback? They were always hitting the ground right in front of his feet, just worm burners left and right. And CeeDee Lamb, like, we all know who CeeDee Lamb is. He's the elite after the catch guy. There's a reason why they have him on punt returns, and it just things he can do with the ball. And Deontay Johnson is just consistently open, and he's kind of all of the above. That's what Wilson is. And like JJ Zacharyson, he's his highest ranked prospect at 97.6% in his Z prospect score. I recommend people to go get this guide. It's wonderful. If you aren't huge in the analytics like I am, he makes you better understand numbers. And for people like me who, need a coloring book, it's perfect.
A coloring book. Wow. Maybe I'll send you a dry erase board.
I can color inside the lines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did pick that up last week, but I haven't been able to. I've been very busy at work, and I have not been able to go through it. But you mentioned CeeDee Lamb being used on punt return team. Deontay Johnson was used on punt return early in his career, and Ohio State used Garrett Wilson on punt return when he was a freshman. So he's done that before, and so he's got that skill set, and that's really what you see like after the catch, and it really pops.
All right, let's get into the next wide receiver, Treylon Burks from Arkansas. Now, he started off before the combine. He had all the jazz. He was the number one. And
what is having all the jazz? Can I ask?
Like, he's got all the juice, man. He's getting all the fame.
Oomph.
All
is
the
your
love.
thing jazz? Is your thing jazz? Is this a new thing?
It could be.
The gabagool.
Oh, it's gabagool. Hey, gabagool, not the gabagool. It's not a monster. It's not a ghoul. It's a ghoul.
It's not a gabagool.
It's a gabagool. All right. So when you're eating the gabagool and you're watching Treylon Burks, why do we think that the combine had such a negative effect on his appeal? Like, I see everywhere on Twitter that people are just like, oh yeah, he's not the number one anymore. He's taken a few hits. I've even seen other players drop him down, maybe to like 3 or 4 on their wide receiver boards. But he's supposed to be a massive guy, 6'2", 225. He's a little bit older, which scares me. But I want to know what you guys think, because I'm on the fence about him, and I need something to push me either way. Hopefully, you're both not negative.
Hopefully, you don't tear something when you slip off that fence.
I got a goal.
So pre-combine, I think there was a notion that was floating around the community that he was basically this 6'5", 235-pound 4.2 guy.
And, I heard 3'9".
Yeah. People were absolutely ridiculous on him prior to the combine, and I think
he was shrinking every comment.
The reality of it is, like, you could see. Yeah, he showed bursts on tape, and he was able to make plays, and especially after the catch, he was able to make plays. But a lot of what was being said on Twitter, if you watched him at Arkansas, it was not what it was being talked about. But anyways, I think that we're all, I don't know, I hate going there, but it's at the same time, everybody's looking for the next Debo. But really what you're looking for is a player that can be used in a multifaceted role. And that's where Treylon Burks comes in. He's a guy that probably struggles to get off press coverage at the next level, but I don't know that matters so much, as he's got that athletic ability that he can have touches schemed up, that he can have some creative usage. And you know that this is a copycat league, so coaches are going to be looking for the next guy that fits in that role, and that's the value on Treylon Burks. Now, I've heard him, the draft community from the jump was lower on him than the fantasy community because of those concerns that he doesn't exactly profile to be a number one wide receiver that you can consistently line up outside, dictate coverage, win, and all those things. So there's been a little bit of a disconnect through the process there. But again, he's just got that size, the athleticism to be able to handle volume, and that's really what you're looking for.
For me, there are red flags, and I think the main issue why you see people like Chef hedging is because we have on one hand N'Keal Harry, who showed similar style of play, kind of honestly, go watch
receiver.
Go watch N'Keal Harry film at Arizona State. Use the same, very close to line of scrimmage, get the ball in his hands and let him do his thing. And people realize, hey, he can't separate. And people are worried about that with Treylon Burks. And I had the same worries because that's how he was used. He was used on jet sweeps. He was getting screens, ball in his hands early, and just go. But then again, you have DK Metcalf, who is like, okay, can he's definitely not as fast as Metcalf. Like, that's easy, but he can run a good 9 route. That's seen. Like, he's strong, and he's able to get the corner off of him on 9 routes. But the issue is the corner's always draped over him. There's always, and we're going to talk about another receiver that we see in contested catches who's amazing at him, but it seems like all of his catches are contested. So
maybe the next guy.
In my opinion, I like guys like Garrett Wilson, who can get open quick, who are very quick off the line, can get open, great route runners. I worry about Treylon Burks. Can he be AJ Brown, who also fell in rookie drafts, who was a late first, early second in Superflex and was an extreme value because we all worried about landing spot and he wasn't that fast. Like we're like, AJ Brown's not that quick. Maybe he's just a guy. And he fell. So maybe Treylon Burks is that. The issue is we just don't know. And honestly, I think it's going to be coach dependent. If he lands with a good system that can kind of figure out who he is, that's going to work. The issue with N'Keal Harry is, I mean, Belichick's like, hey, this is what you're going to do. If you can't do it, you're not playing. And guess what? N'Keal Harry couldn't do it, and he didn't play. He got outproduced by UDFA's 7th round picks, and N'Keal Harry is now left for dead in Dynasty.
I saw a most recent mock draft on Twitter today. Treylon Burks falling to the Eagles at 15. I don't know if I like him there. I don't know if it's a run-first offense.
I think that helps Smith personally, who...
it'll definitely help Smith, but whether or not it makes me want to jump off and grab Treylon Burks. No.
Now, say it's Green Bay. Green Bay.
100%.
But the thing is, Rodgers is very dependent on knowing where his receivers are going to be. Yes, he can improv, but he's getting at the age where he needs to know where you're going to be in your route. Treylon Burks is a little raw at route running. Will they actually connect as well as we think? That's where my issue is. Kansas City is a different story because Mahomes improvs everything. I think Kansas City is the best landing spot for him in his athleticism and how he can be used, because Treylon Burks can kind of use his athletic profile and improv when Mahomes is running around and scrambling. And Mahomes doesn't care. Like, Mahomes is going to throw it to you and make sure he throws you open. So for me, I think Kansas City is the best landing spot, not Green Bay, any of that. If Burks lands there, he'll push up. So it's definitely landing spot dependent.
You know where he's going. I'll tell you right now where he's going. He's going to be Dallas Cowboy. Are you kidding me? Yeah, this big receiver from Arkansas that they moved out of Amari Cooper. He's going to be a Dallas Cowboy. And he's going to be in that offense. And if he's in that Cooper role, then maybe. But yeah, you want to see creative usage. And Mark McCarthy wouldn't be a coach that I would trust to have creative usage with him. That's for sure. But I do think that you're running into two camps. You're getting the people that were burnt by N'Keal Harry don't want to go there again. And so they're probably lending more towards easy separators. And I agree. Like, that's really what I think offenses are looking for. But I think that you're also having people that are chasing there must be a stud receiver in this class. And he most looks like guys that I traditionally think are stud receivers. And so that's kind of what you're getting out of that too.
Yeah. And Zach Reason's comps are Alshon Jeffrey. That's a good one. Allen Robinson and this one's gross. Stephen Hill, if you can remember back then.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, New York Jets, 6'4", ran like a 4.2.
I mean, I'm gonna go back to Nick Whalen, who's a good friend of mine. I met him a couple of times. He had him comped to Demaryius Thomas, and if you think about that, Demaryius Thomas was very raw, very athletic, and I think he showed it a little better in the combine. But he was at Georgia Tech. They run a 3-5-7 type option offense. They just run the ball. They hardly throw. The quarterback's a running back. So for me, that's a great comp. And if Burks can have the mentality to fix things, the thing that worries me about that is, he didn't run his 40 at his pro day. And you hear interviews of Treylon Burks saying, he didn't really run well at his 40 because he didn't train for it, or he wasn't trained to run it's like these players spent months training to specifically run this 40 yards. And Treylon Burks is sitting here saying, well, I didn't really train for it. It's like, you don't like to hear that. Nope.
No.
Well, I mean, I guess that happens every season. We look for the speedsters. Henry Ruggs was a flash of lightning as far as the 40s go. And then when they get to the NFL level, we find out that they're not the best wide receiver in that class. A lot of it has to do with landing spot, draft capital. I think that Treylon Burks gets the draft capital that he needs to succeed in the NFL. Whether or not he contributes really like first season is going to be the tricky thing. If it depends on how fast he can catch on, and definitely landing spot. You have to remember that only 2 wide receivers in the past, I don't know, 5-6 years have actually been wide receiver ones in their rookie season. And it's Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. So we've seen back-to-back years as anomalies. And I think the mistake that most fantasy players are doing now is they're especially the newer ones, are expecting this anomaly to continue over and over and over again. And I don't think we're going to see that this year with the big influx of wide receiver and all the other competition that has gotten paid so far this offseason. I think some of these guys are going to hit the back of the bus until later on in the season and come on like a normal freshman rookie wide receiver would.
Year 2 is usually when you see the jump, but Jefferson and Chase have ruined us, which is weird because back when I started Dynasty, it was year 3. Like you had to wait till year 3. Now it's year 2 is usually it, but now it's going to be year 1. Like that people are just getting spoiled. So yeah,
I'll spoil myself over the next guy that we're going to talk about because my guy.
We're going to
my
Paris.
guy, Drake, the Royal Exchange, London. All right, Tyler, you know, Royal Exchange.
How long
He's the
are
money
you gonna,
man?
How many?
I was searching
gonna...
for historic London buildings today. Jeff, I'll let you in on the little inside joke here. I called him the Eiffel Tower. The first time I talked about him, I'll put myself out there a little bit.
Yeah, not in London, not at all.
No, not in London. Yeah, it was a great day. And it was a great laugh. That's what we do here. Wide receiver, USC. He is one of my favorite guys out of this class. He has a basketball background. He can jump. When I first did my research, I comped him to Mike Williams, Mike Evans, and I see that trend going forward around social media. So I'm really excited to hear both of you and what your opinions are on Drake London, because I see him at most people's number 2 behind Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, my comp for him is T. Higgins, and because I think that T. Higgins gets used a lot more. Drake London's able to be used in the slot. USC lined him up all over, and I know that there are a lot of everybody wants to throw out separation stats and whatever. If you didn't watch college football, if you didn't watch USC, the ball was going to Drake London on every single play, and everybody in the stadium knew it. This guy was getting like 15 targets a game, and they did not have good quarterback play at USC. So when you've got, you're getting double teamed and the ball's still coming at you, or, there are multiple plays you can find easily online where he's got the guy beat and he's got to come back for a lollipop ball. And so by the time it gets to him, the defenders come back on him. So I think that there are a lot of those type of things on tape, but he's shown a lot more versatility. And I understand, like, as a 6'5" guy, and you look at stats and see contested catch, that those are going to be natural comps, but they have lined him up all over. And this guy is freakishly athletic in terms in that 6'5" frame. And so that's kind of where I go with T. Higgins, because T. Higgins, the Bengals have used him in the slot, used him on slants, and also his ability to win downfield and contested catches. And so that's where I land with Drake London.
Yeah, and people are going with the Mike Evans route, but I loved Mike Evans. The whole debate of OBJ and Mike Evans back in 2015 after their rookie years. I was Mike Evans camp. I loved the style of play, but I don't think Drake London is him, because Mike Evans caught the ball and was down. Like, he couldn't run after the catch. Drake London can. He is very good at after the catch. He's very bendy for his frame. We're going to see how fast he is. I think he's got his makeup pro day coming up here soon. Jeff, you probably know more about that than I do, but I know it's coming up quick. He is a big guy. He's almost like the complete opposite anybody else in this class, because he is the traditional X receiver that you used to see in the days of Calvin Johnson, aforementioned Mike Evans. It's just, is that the route NFL is going? Like Jeff, you talked about how, the balls that he was getting thrown, he had to come back and get. And I do agree, but there is plays where he's got a corner draped over him on a 9 route. Is he fast enough to separate? It's the same issues we see with these bigger receivers. And once again, it depends on the team. I think he'd be a great fit in Chicago. I don't think he's going to get a chance to be in Chicago because they don't have a first round pick. If he lands with the Jets, I'm not sure if I like that.
That
I mean, it's a perfect fit. I'm not a fan of the quarterback there, so that's where my issue is. But you know what? If Zach Wilson gets a little bit of Ryan Fitzpatrick, a YOLO ball in him, just likes to throw it up.
Drake he's London got a YOLO ball already. We know that.
That's true.
It's about the only thing he's got.
That is a great fit for him. Drake London, if he lands in Atlanta again, Mariota is not that quarterback. Mariota is I'm going to hang on to it. I'm going to make the smart play. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of these wide receivers are all different. They give you a different aspect, different styles. So for me, it's where they get drafted. Drake London is definitely in my top 3 to 4. I would say he's right with Treylon Burks and the questions I have about him. The pro day will answer the speed question for me. And if he answers that, I think I'll be okay.
Nice. Yeah, I've had Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 1 for a year, and I'm very high on Drake London too. And I really want to. I'm kind of in the same place. Like I want to see where this 40 comes in, because if he's cracking sub 4.5 in that 6'5" frame, I mean we're looking at something special. I think that might not be anywhere else in this class. But I think that you're exactly right in terms of the way that offenses have shifted towards quickness, speed, guys who can create quickly. And he's not going to be that type of guy, but he did show a lot of versatility at USC.
Yeah. And you talked about Wilson. So DeAndre Swift, his freshman year, his first game, I said, Swift is my RB1 when he comes out. No, hands down. That's it. I stood by it. He was. Wilson, his freshman year, when I saw him make plays, I was like, he's it. He is the guy. I mean, his freshman year, he came in, was just like, it was easy to him. It just seemed like he was just playing in the backyard with friends. And yeah, I agree. Wilson just popped off the tape. Drake London, he played with, Pittman, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he had his breakout year this year, had the injury. That's not the worry. It's just a little bit of the athletic profile. And yeah, I mean, speed isn't everything. He can win in different, other ways. So if you want a big receiver and that's your style, Drake London should be your wide receiver 1, hands down, because he's the cream of the crop when it comes to the 6'4", 215, 220-pound receiver. And he could be the pick. I mean, I could be sitting here wrong on Wilson, and he could just dominate because he's got that style play.
And he's got a fancy nickname too, the Royal Exchange. But I'm glad we mentioned fast-paced wide receivers.
I royally exchange that nickname?
Stop talking. Maybe depends on the amount of cheddar you're gonna throw back my way. We were talking about fast wide receivers and guys that could create separation, and this next guy that we're going to talk about in Jameson Williams from Alabama is all about that. He's got the similar play style that I saw in Marquise Brown. He has that long ball capability, and I think wherever he lands, he's going to make some kind of an impact for fantasy.
Yeah, I think that there are 3 wide receivers in this class that could be the first ones off the board in the draft. And I would have Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Jameson Williams in that running. I just don't think that Treylon Burks is there, that he's going to be the first guy off the board.
Rumors he could drop to the second, like Burks.
Yeah. That's the reality of it. Jameson Williams, man, I love him. He was at Ohio State, and he's getting so much, like, everybody's conflicted on him, it seems like, but the reality of it is he wasn't playing at Ohio State because he was behind potentially 3 of the 5 best college football wide receivers, and he was playing at Ohio State. He just wasn't getting the ball, and I think that that's one of those, if you're just looking at the stat sheet and you see that he doesn't have high numbers, he was on the field and he was put in big situations at Ohio State. There were some kind of questions, concerns about maybe maturity level, concentration type things in that wide receiver room. And I think it's the case where when you're in a wide receiver room with guys that are ready to be NFL starters from the moment they walk onto college. And, it can, if you stand out a little bit in the other direction, it can be glaring as opposed to, and then he goes to Alabama, he immediately takes over the alpha wide receiver role in Alabama. And that it's not like this guy went to Northern Illinois and started to be the stud wide receiver. He went to Alabama and, he was a key, he was really the key piece that put them in the title game because without him on that offense, Bryce Young won the Heisman and certainly congratulations to him. But I think that if you took Jameson Williams out of that offense would really have lacked a vertical threat that could threaten the defenses like the way Jameson Williams did. And I don't think Alabama's playing in the national championship game, much less maybe even the SEC title game without Jameson Williams in that offense because he had that big of a season for them.
Yeah. Once again, we're going to go into the issue and what you believe and if he's different. Like we heard people with Henry Ruggs, people are like, oh, he's not Will Fuller. He can do more. He's a route runner. But you know what? Ruggs went to a situation. I feel like I'm going to say that. Just talk people's ear up about situation where he was used as an eye route guy and they didn't really use him anywhere else until you saw beginning of this year when he was used a little more before unfortunately the incident. But Jameson Williams, I think he's different because the way he runs his routes, he uses his speed as almost a weapon. Like it's not just I'm gonna outrun you. He uses it tactically. He speeds up, accelerates, and he's very good at it. And then it's almost like he pushes the brake a little bit, like he's going to go left or right, and then uses that quick acceleration to take off. And he's got you by like 8 yards. Like it's over. And if he goes to an offense that sees that and a quarterback with a good arm that can give him the ball, like a Mahomes, like if that's it, like James Williams is my wide receiver 2 easily, hands down. And it's very fun to watch. If you just watch him run routes, it's not real fancy or it's not like a chess player. It's just he knows how to use his speed against you, and he is going to burn you. He knows he's faster than you, but that's not how he wins. He wins with the technical ability of his speed. And that I love that. I love that so much about him. And it's very rare that you see a person that fast able to manipulate with that speed. And I love everything about him. His hands are great. Yeah, he had a couple drops, but I mean, when you're going that fast and you're running away from somebody as fast as you can, I'm not going to blame that on him. I mean, he doesn't have Troy Williamson hands. He's got really good hands for how fast he's going and how deep he's going on those throws. JJ has him comped for Jerry Jeudy. I can understand that. I don't think he's as good of a route runner as Jerry Jeudy. I think Jeudy probably has that on him. And then he's got Calvin Ridley, which is interesting because I think the body type is very similar as Calvin Ridley. Ridley was 6'1", about 175. That's what Jameson's at. And then his other one's Diami Brown. And I mean, people love Diami Brown.
I love Diami Brown.
Yeah. He could be an offseason buy if
Washington, please get Sam Howell.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
I mean, they got Carson Wentz who loves to throw deep. So you never know. But Diami Brown in college was a dynamic Brown.
Yeah. Dynamite. Yeah. Dynamite Brown. I think I nicknamed him, but God. Man, maybe I should stop nicknaming players. But let's keep the trend going on Ohio State wide receivers, and let's get into somebody that actually excelled at the combine more so than what other analysts had thought he was going to do. We definitely saw his stock and value rise after the combine, and it was Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave, he wanted to show up to the NFL. I thought he did declare, and then he backed out. He went back to school. Is that what happened, Jeff? You're the Ohio State fan, and I know you know a lot about Ohio State football.
No, he never declared. He was always it was a question. He was expected to declare it. It was surprising that he didn't, but he never did actually declare and come back.
Good.
So
My issue is, did he actually rise in draft stock? He might have a tad, but he was like in the 20s, I think, range for people coming out last year. That's kind of where he was expected to land, maybe mid to late first.
he had major questions about ball security in the 20 season. He fumbled, I think it was like 5 or 6 times because he would stay up, he would try to make plays, and he'd fumble.
He saw Kenny Pickett, and he's like, "Oh, that guy's outdoing me. I need to fumble more."
Yeah, so I don't know. He's a guy that I don't know. I don't want to be labeled a biased homer, but the reality of it is Ohio State has pretty good players. So, if you're going to call me a homer for saying Ohio State's good, well, that is what that is. But I think he's a guy that people they're hesitant to buy in all the way because he didn't like blow away the competition. But when your competition is Garrett Wilson and Jackson Smith and Jigba, of course you didn't blow away the competition. And I see a lot of people saying about him that he is a high-end wide receiver too, but we know he's fast, and we know that he's able to separate quickly and easily, and we know that I think that there's questions about him not fighting through contact this year, but I think that was an adjustment made by the coaching staff that, hey, when you've got 20 yards, go down and let's make another play instead of you staying up and fumbling the ball again. And so I think that there was some of that went on, but Terry McLaurin, you go to the same school comps, like he's a guy that he's always reminded me of McLaurin because he played special teams. He made a lot of great plays on special teams. He had a punt block for a touchdown against Michigan 2 or 3 years ago. And he's just one of those guys that instinctually understands football. He's incredibly smooth, incredibly fast. And I don't think we should have put a ceiling on him as a wide receiver too, because he can do all the things that check all the boxes to be a wide receiver 1.
See, I think we might be on different Twitter sphere because I stated that I'm not too big on him. He's like outside of my wide receiver, like he might be wide receiver 6, maybe 5. I'm not really on him. And after I posted that, people just roasted me. People are like, no, that's not it. Like,
what the difference between your wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 7?
Well, it's not that. It's that I called Chris Olave Devin Smith from Ohio State. If you remember him back in the day, I think he's got the. I just think
Tyler's not a fan.
He's a guy. Like
he's a guy. He's more than a guy.
Not a guy. That's true, but I mean,
it's JJ one of those.
Okay, JJ has him as Will Fuller comp, Zay Jones, and Devonta Smith. So they're all kind of those smaller players, field stretchers, but smaller. And can they got to beat press differently. And now NFL doesn't press as much as people think. That's starting to become like the cap. It's a myth. I mean, if you're an elite player like Mike Evans, you're going against Jalen Ramsey, he's going to be in your face all the time. But that's completely different. So Olave, I think in this NFL, like I preach on separation and those type of receivers. I do like that about Olave. But in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be an elite player. Like you said, he's not Wilson, elite level athleticism. He can't win in those type of ways. Is he going to be? God, who could I comp him to? You guys talk, because there's a comp in my head that I just can't figure out.
A comp for Chris Olave?
Yes, and I just can't figure it out. It's fine, but it's not great.
You know what I'm saying? Ridley's a nice comp for him.
I think Calvin Ridley had a little more suddenness to him.
I just think that, okay. So I think Chris Olave is one of those guys that everything just looks so smooth that you almost wonder, is he trying as hard as he can? But meanwhile, everybody is getting further and further away from him on the field. It's just one of those things where, and I know coming out of high school, he didn't have a huge recruiting profile. I think he was a 3-star coming out. And he was one of those guys that they went and saw, God, what quarterback was it? They went and saw a quarterback that was he was at school with, and they fell in love with the quarterback, and he ended up along with him. And I'm blanking on what quarterback it was. He was almost like a toss-in, like a recruiting trip. So went to see the other guy and said, "Who is that?" And he ended up at Ohio State, and certainly he's been a star since day one. I mean, this isn't the guy that sat at Ohio State for 4 years and then came in and had one good season. This guy made impact plays as a freshman, and he is a pure football player. He is so smooth, and I just think that you're underselling his athleticism.
He's Darnell Mooney, which is fine.
Whoa, I like that. I like Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I mean,
I do
Darnell
too.
Mooney's
But
got a very good.
He's a little bit bigger than Darnell Mooney. I think.
Is he though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's almost 190, right?
No, he's like 183 or 185.
I thought Mooney's like 178.
Yeah, Mooney is like 180.
All right, so he's bigger than Mooney.
So he's 187 on JJ's prospect guide.
All
6
right,
foot.
cool.
Mooney's 5'11", about 178. But I think their play style is very similar. They're fast. They can get open easily. They're smooth. But I don't think they're the traditional one. They need somebody else with them to help them. Their wide receiver, like if at best, in my opinion, Olave is a wide receiver 3 for fantasy teams. Like that's where you want him. You don't want him as your 1. You don't really feel great as him as your 2.
In his rookie year, you're saying?
I'm saying in general.
Oh, just in general. A wide receiver 3.
Like he'll have a year like who's
kind of hard to get behind that.
Kyle Yates had a great comp for him. Emmanuel Sanders. That's another one. Emmanuel Sanders was like a 800, 900 yard guy in Pittsburgh. He had 1,000 yards a couple times. And that's where he's at. Like that. And that's a great comp. He's smooth. He's not anything that's going to be like, he's my wide receiver 1, or you're sitting there, you're like, I got 2 wide receiver 1s on my team, and he's involved in that. I'd be more than happy to take Olave in the second round, early second, but I know I'm not going to get him there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what you can do? You can go to Underdog and play sophomores and rookies best ball and get one of these guys.
I did. I've actually drafted Olave in one of them.
And if you go right now to Underdog, go and download the app right now, hit pause, go download, and they will deposit match $100, up to $100, and get you some free money in there to go and play some best ball. You know, they have prop bets, all kinds of things. The biggest up and coming app in the fantasy community. Go and check them out on Underdog. Use our code DHH for, once again, up to $100 match on your first deposit. So let's get into the second half of these guys. And I guess we'll do 10 of these guys to stop the pain on the back end, because it does drop off pretty fast. And I know I guess when we close, we'll say like one of our sleepers in this rookie class that we're trying to match up with. So where are we at here? So that brings us to Georgia, Mr. Georgia, George Pickens, wide receiver 6 on DLF rookie ADP. And I'm a decent fan of George Pickens. Not to say that, but I think this is the start of the dropping off point. Like these guys, you can interchange between 6, 7, and 8, and maybe even 9. Like the next 4 guys are on the fence players for me. And I want your opinions to help me out be a better Dynasty player. Because I mean, Jeff, I know you got the scoop on rookies. Tyler, I know you like Pickens. What do you guys got for me?
I mean, do you want me to go first, Jeff, on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
First. Yeah.
I love George Pickens. I see a lot of T. Higgins in him. And their stories are very similar, in my opinion. Like T. Higgins, he had the neck issues and he kind of got past it. Am I right on that? Didn't T. Higgins have like the neck thing?
I think you're thinking of Justin Ross was the guy that.
Oh, Justin Ross. T. Higgins had an ACL, didn't he? Or he had an ankle. He had a major injury.
Pickens had an ACL.
Pickens had an ACL.
Also been labeled as a troublemaker, so that I'm a little hesitant. And that's
now, is he a troublemaker, or does he have that old school wide receiver diva mentality, like the Terrell Owens style, the I am good at what I do mentality. And people, nowadays may take that.
I'm sorry, maybe he has a maturity problem.
Maturity could be the right route. In my opinion, if you've got confidence, it could be taken differently these days than maturity issues. Like, oh, that guy's ignorant.
The kid started a fight and like sat out half of the SEC conference championship, correct? Is that what happened?
Have you? We've all played professional sports. You know how heated you could get. I played hockey, but I played beer league hockey and almost got in a fight. Like that's kind of the
competitiveness.
The competitiveness perhaps? I want in a player. Like I want somebody that wants to push and just is in the game. He's a 5-star recruit, major recruit. And Jeff, I know you're big in the Devy. Right before his ACL injury, he was the talk. Like it was George Pickens. Like this guy is at least top 3 in this class. Now he came back, he played in the last game. He did all right. Didn't he have like 2 for 44 in his last game?
He made a fantastic play against Alabama in the title game.
Yep. And that's what he is. He's T. Higgins. Like T. Higgins, in my opinion, there's games where you're going to get the 3 for 40. You're going to get 7 points from T. Higgins some games. But just like Pickens can do that, Pickens can also get you the 8 for 150 and 2. Like that, he's capable of that. And I love that about Pickens. He's capable of being a wide receiver 1 for a team. And Higgins has that as well. Higgins is a little bigger. I would love to see Pickens put a little weight on him. He's about 195. I would like to see him at like 210 for his size. NFL weight room will get that up. He's, still recovering from that ACL. I think he's going to be just fine. He'll be in that Michael Pittman range of draft. He'll be an early 2nd round pick, maybe even late 1st. But in my opinion, I think he'll slate right in that early 2nd. Maybe Atlanta goes a different route. They don't go receiver at 8. They take Pickens, keep him in Georgia. I would love that.
He's a guy that I worry that he's going to be a little bit role limited, that he's going to be pigeonholed into just being a field stretcher, because I don't know. Georgia's offense is tough to judge because they don't really run a projectable offense. They like to run the ball a lot. They had Stetson Bennett at quarterback. They had a lot of ball control, and they would occasionally take shots deep. Their defense is insane, and so the offense was essentially, we had the athletes to hit a big play, and they would use him in that role. So like we haven't seen him really show that skill set of lining up throughout formation, continually eating volume, and so that's kind of where I land on George Pickens as like potentially a downside, as I just worry about him only being an outside guy used to stretch the field, almost like the Marquise Valdes-Scantling type role. And so if he can if he can make that leap to be that, I think the talent's certainly there. The profile and everything's certainly there that he can do that. But we haven't seen it yet. And so I think that's kind of where the difficulty lies in projecting him.
Yeah, and you get JJ's prospect scores, his statistical comparables. Nico Collins. I mean, I still love Nico Collins. Aaron Dobson, the hype. And T. Higgins is another one. So he's right around that range of, like you said, the 9 route guys. Pickens does have a little bit to kind of round out the edges of his game with the routes. But honestly, he is going to be that late round 1st, early 2nd round guy that you're going to be choosing between him or Olave. And it's pick your poison. For me right now, it's Pickens, landing spot dependent. Like say Olave goes to Green Bay. That is where I might have Olave just
move
fitting
up
perfect, because like I said, Rodgers is hey, I need you here at this time. And Olave is going to be that guy. Olave is going to be at that spot right at the right time. Now, Matt Waldman has Olave as his wide receiver 1. I got told that plenty of times after I went on Twitter and said something. I don't know how many people posted about Matt Waldman as wide receiver 1. Matt Waldman's great. He does fantastic work. He watches about 365 more days more of tape than I do, because that man is glued to his tape watching. So if you want to go listen to him and his rankings, I'm perfectly fine with that. You can go ahead and do that. It's just my opinion that Olave is lower than wide receiver 1.
I believe in Matt Woolman. He told everybody to stay away from
Jeff,
Zach.
what are you doing on Sundays?
Doing on Sundays, I'm watching football.
I mean,
chasing my children, but yeah.
I'm not going to be drafting the next guy on Sundays. Christian Watson from North Dakota State. Now, if you're coming from a lower school, we've saw it with what's his name? And now I'm blanking on him. The guy that went to Liberty. Was that
Malik
Donovan?
Willis?
Was that no? It was
Yeah.
when he went to Washington. From Liberty to Washington. He was a receiver. Oh, now I'm blanking on his name because he didn't turn out to
Golden
anything.
Gandy.
Yeah, that's it. Antonio
Gandy Golden.
Gandy Golden. Right.
Yeah.
So these lower
completely different
conferences. Yeah, I'm not not comping him to Antonio Gandy Golden. Okay. What I am saying is these lower schools, North Dakota State, Liberty, transferring into the NFL and with not
so
too
they
much
transfer into the
experience.
NFL now.
The portal.
All right.
You're an ass.
Chef, I'm just gonna stop you right now. You know what? For me,
I don't like Christian Watson. Let me hear your take.
I'm kind of in the same boat. He's a guy that's super athletic. We see this all the time. Jeff Janis, guys like that. Super, super athletic. But you know what? I didn't see him dominate like Cooper Kupp did in the lower Division 2. He should have dominated with these athletic scores. Like Trey Lance as his quarterback, who has a phenomenal deep ball, should have been able to dominate. I know the offense was a little different, but in my opinion, he should have just killed it. Corey Davis, Cooper Kupp, they destroyed their lower end conferences in college. So for me, I'm actually out on him as well. And Jeff, you can go.
Well, that offense was weird because that offense at North Dakota State, they rely on the tight end and they rely on the fullback. And like, how many offenses are you going to find that rely on the tight end?
And it was always a one read. It was Trey Lance, one read, and then take off or get the ball and run.
Yeah, but God, Watson's the guy that he's landing in like that mid-second round, and I love taking a stab on him there. And I think I'm in a league with Chef where I ended up with him in that round, but he stands to me as the guy most likely to, if he gets drafted by the Packers or the Chiefs, and all of a sudden you have a 6'4" guy that ran a 4.3 whatever it was, and he's attached to Patrick Mahomes,
MVS.
That people are going to take him in the first round. But he did show a little bit more creative usage. There was a lot of getting the ball early, letting him create after the run. And so he did show those things, and he doesn't project only as a 6'4" run down the field, Stephen Hill, to go back to get that comparison type guy, because I think that there was a little bit more that he did show, and he's certainly got the athletic tools and everything is there. I hear you on, they didn't use him like you would have loved to see, especially at that level. But they didn't really need to. Like, that program wins every game anyways, doing what they do. So it's one of those that, God, I could see him going late first round, landing attached to Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and he's going to be going in the first round in rookie drafts. I feel like once you get the more general public outside of us, outside of kind of the industry drafts, I think you're going to see him going in that area.
100% more amateur leagues, I'll say, like home leagues that I'm in. If he lands in the end of the first with a team like that, he's going to be a first round rookie pick. In my opinion, like from the thing that kind of makes me hesitate on my thinking is, like you said, in the Senior Bowl, he dominated. And what people saw was, and what they had issues with, is he had trouble getting off the line and his routes weren't crisp. Well, at the Senior Bowl, he showed the exact opposite. He was able to get off the line very well, and his routes were phenomenal. He was beating everybody. So is it, has he worked on things? Has he changed? And if that's the case, because from what you hear, he's a complete lunch pail guy. First one in, last one out, coach's son type guy, has coffee in the morning with his quarterback. So that is where we are at with Watson. And if he's a mid-second, I'm fine with taking it, because this mid to late second in this rookie draft is not great.
No. It's definitely not. One guy that probably won't be there in the mid to late second is our next wide receiver, Jahan Dotson,
Oh,
out of Penn
yes.
State. Thank God we made it to Jahan Dotson. I like him. I have him as my number 6. From the film that I've
I
watched
have him
on
ahead
him,
of Olave.
his hands are great. He does not drop the ball. 30% target share, 62% catch percentage. I like those odds. Wherever he lands, I believe he can contribute right out the gate. What do you think, Jeff?
I have him as my wide receiver 9. I'm a little bit more limited on him. I think that we haven't mentioned one guy that
He's
I've
a Big
got
Ten
in front of
player,
him,
and you don't like Big Ten players. Is that why? Your Ohio State's coming
I'm
out?
biased. I'm biased
Oh,
against
man.
everything related to the Big Ten. But anyways, I don't know what role.
I'm going to interrupt you. What do you think of Ibrahim out of Minnesota? You're a Devy guy, and I'm a big Gophers fan. I love Ibrahim. He's like a hero up here. What
I
would
hope
you
he
say
makes it
about
back.
him? I know that's true.
I hope he makes it back from the injury, and
Yeah.
I wonder what they're going to do with that backfield, because they kind of went more towards a committee approach last year, and guys showed things, and so I think that if he hadn't gotten hurt, he was tearing up Ohio State week 1, and if he hadn't gotten hurt,
destroying them.
they might have beat Ohio State, because that run defense was horrendously bad, but that they were hanging in that game until he went down. So hopefully he makes a comeback, but I just have a question about. I don't know. Is Dotson going to be that quick separator volume guy at the NFL level? Then if so, that's awesome. That's fantastic. I don't know if he's quite there in terms of. I just don't know where he's going to go in the drafts. I really struggle with him. Again, like I said, I got him at 9, and I just don't think he's going to go in the first round. And I think he's kind of a more mid-second. He kind of seems like the guy that ends up with the Bears in my mind, where and then, if he's attached to the Bears and he's kind of doing some of the same things as Darnell Mooney, he's attached to, I'm still a believer in Justin Fields, but some people are ready to get off that. And so
Crazy.
I don't see Dotson going in the first round.
Speaking of Fields, people are so recency biased. It's insane. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is left for dead, and oh man, Dotson. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have a huge thing for Penn State receivers. I don't know what it is.
For Hamler as well.
I love Hamler. For people who remember, Deshaun Hamilton, big fan here. I loved Deshaun Hamilton.
Going well too.
Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, even got like Pat Freiermuth. I love them. Mike Gesicki. I remember doing rookie drafts with him. Anybody in Penn State? I should have been a Penn State fan instead, but
they're big around my neck of the woods.
I feel like Penn State is one of those that the uniform guys always look less athletic than what they are in a Penn State uniform for whatever reason. It's just like that is like the number one uniform that is just put them on and it doesn't look like they're. I don't know. It's so weird.
100% agree. I mean, people were like, Hamler's so fast. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, is he like a 4.3 guy?
Uniform. I swear to God, it's that uniform. I'm like, as soon as they put him on, I'm like, no, I don't see it at all.
I mean, that's why I wore navy blue, because I want to look more average. So that's why I like navy blue a lot. So, for me, Dotson, I love him. His hands are great. If I had to put a comp on him, I would probably put him as Deontay Johnson. Like his style of play kind of reminds me of Deontay, maybe lesser than on the athletic side. I don't know if he's as shifty, but man, if you think with his size he can't go up and get it, he can. He has that willingness to go up and get it, and he usually comes on with it more often than not. His comps are T.Y. Hilton, which is a good comp, Sterling Shepard, and Vincent Brown for J.J. Zacharyson.
Brown.
But Dotson for me is ahead of Olave and right there with Pickens.
Wow.
Kind of bombed out on not bombed out, but was pretty average on relative athletic score, and that's a metric that I love to use from Kent LaPlatte, and that kind of balances everything out. And I know that Christian Watson was like a 10 out of 10, and Dotson was a 5.94 on that. So I just don't know, as a 5'10" guy, if he's got the athleticism to really get there.
You know what? Dotson caught that though.
Yeah,
he caught what you just said. because he catches everything.
He does.
Yeah, right out of the sky and right into Sky Moore. That was a terrible segue.
That is what we call professional. That's a professional segue, people.
Yeah.
Take notes.
Right on to Sky Moore from Western Michigan. And we're getting a little close on time here, guys. So we're just going to keep trucking along. I know we could talk all night long, but it's a Dynasty happy hour, not Dynasty Sunday evening into Monday.
I was really hoping you were going to say Dynasty happy hour and a half, because that would have been
happy hour and a half. Well, we might make it there. We usually don't, but hey, I don't care. We can keep talking all day long. But Sky Moore, maybe one of my favorite guys, and I am a slot receiver fan. Okay, because these guys, they are smaller than normal. They go through the middle, and it takes guts to go through the middle. Sky Moore definitely has great concentration. He's a smaller guy, 5'10", which is a little concerning, but
he's thicker. That's the thing about him.
He's great on contested catches, usually in traffic, and he ran a 4.4 40. I'm okay with that, and I think he does okay at the next level, and you'll probably get him in the mid-second round in rookie drafts, which I like the value there because he could turn into
he's
going
to be an early second. Draft capital,
depending on what kind of league you're in. In home leagues, he may fall a little bit.
The hype he's getting and how much NFL is talking about him being a early second or maybe even late first. I have a feeling he's going to rise.
Drafted in the first.
I doubt.
I think he's the guy that's going to go to Kansas City or Green Bay, and I think he's going to be a first-round pick in rookie drafts. I think he's the guy that's going to get attached to either Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes.
Do you like Sky Moore as much as me?
I love Sky Moore, man. Yes. I really do like Sky Moore a lot, and I know Christian Wilson, or God damn it. Sorry, Joe. Christian Williams is my co-host on the Debbie Royale, and he is the foremost Sky Moore fan.
You don't need to apologize to Joe here.
Yeah, no. You're not on his dime right now.
You sound just like Cecil. I love it.
That was... Yeah, I don't swear, and I don't know what happened. I was blanking in my mind where I wanted to go with that. But Christian,
you're happy.
My co-host on the Debbie Royale, is a huge Sky Moore fan as well, and he's gotten me turned on there. But I do think that he's going to go in the first round because we're just seeing so much talk about him being attached to these teams. He's so raw. He played quarterback in high school, so he's still really developing. And Tyler, you go back. Remember Bert Emanuel with the Falcons? He was an option quarterback in college, and he switch to wide receiver. I think that there's like some of that going on with Sky Moore, and he's coming out of the program that just had Dwayne Eskridge last year at Central Michigan, so they just produced a wide receiver who went round 2 the previous season. So I think that he's probably the hottest name right now, and I think that he's going to go at that mid or that end of the first round range and get attached to one of these elite quarterbacks. And I think he's the guy that I don't know where the ceiling is on him really, because if he's attached to Mahomes and, is he going to go? Like, is he cracking the top 10 of Superflex drafts? Is he cracking the top 10 of one quarterback drafts? He's going to be right there.
I think he'll be top 10 in one quarterback at least. I mean, I was thinking about the comp for him before I saw this, and JJ nailed it. DJ Moore style play for me is spot on. He can do everything. Yeah, he's not the crazy touchdown guy, except I think Sky Moore can do that, especially if he lands with Pat Mahomes or Rodgers. I mean, look at Randall Cobb back in his heyday. Randall Cobb had a season where he had 12 touchdowns, and that could easily happen for Sky Moore. And like I said with Rodgers, he needs you right here. Sky Moore is going to be that guy, and then he can do a lot more after the catch.
It's funny you mentioned DJ Moore, because while I was doing my research on Sky Moore, I was like, any relationship there? And no, Google truthed. No, there's no relationship there, because we do have brothers on this show.
We don't have Doug here to screw that up. Isaiah Spiller, CJ Spiller. We don't have that mix up. Doug.
I was just double checking, in light of anybody that was going to be here. I didn't want to say it. I was like,
I mean, maybe Rondell Moore. Yeah, maybe he's the guy we want. Like, he's going to be what we wanted Rondell Moore to be. That could be it.
That's definitely probably what's going to happen. Faith.
Yeah. My comp for Dwayne Eskridge last year was DJ Moore, and when I was watching Sky Moore, I was like, man, I feel like I'm watching Eskridge all over again. So
do you still like Eskridge?
I do still like Eskridge.
He was very old coming in. So
he is very old. I don't know. I still tend to believe that Tyler Lockett's going to get moved, and DJ Metcalf potentially too is going to get moved. And so
could happen.
I don't know. I feel like people are just giving up on Eskridge already. He was hurt last year. He was a 2nd round pick, and I know he's older, but I don't know. He's got a body build, and he's kind of left for dead right now in Dynasty. And he's not a bad guy to put on your end of your bench or to throw a 4th round pick at him or whatever.
Heck, I was gonna say, even do a 3rd, especially at this class. Yeah. Give a 3rd for a guy who's just drafted in the 2nd.
Yeah, because if Metcalf's gone and Seattle's launching a full-blown rebuild, are they really gonna trot out Freddie Swain and make him a primary receiver? They're gonna give a shot on a guy that they used in the 2nd round last year.
You just insulted like 5 people, 5 of the biggest Freddie Swain fans in the world, because they probably
a heck of a run blocker.
Good old Freddie Swain.
That's right. Hey, bring me on the show and we're gonna go places.
I love it. I love it. Let's get back into it and get in our last of the 10 wide receivers that we are going to target tonight. David Bell out of Purdue. Now,
I'm out.
Tyler.
That athletic
Is it
profile,
because he ran a 4.65?
It's because of that. It's because of everything he's done. You know what?
Just because of the speed?
Kelvin, do you remember Kelvin Harmon and how hyped he was? It's the exact same thing. He's going to be like a 5th or 6th round pick. It's not even worth talking about him. I'm sorry.
Really?
Not worth talking about.
His tape is fine, but his athletic profile is absolutely horrible.
Tyler, I knew you were one of my favorite people even before this, and now you solidified it, because I'm really out on David Bell too, and I don't really understand why. You think if John Mechie was at Purdue and they were throwing the ball in his direction every single play, John Mechie wouldn't be able to make some plays? Even like Jalen Tolbert, like some of these Khalil Shakur, these other guys, they would be doing the same things that he did. And I don't know. I just don't see what his role is in the NFL. He reminds me of. He just strikes me as maybe like a Van Jefferson, who's like a 4th wide receiver. That
Van Jefferson's fast though.
Yeah, I don't even James. My high end comp for him was Tyler Boyd, and Tyler Boyd's a good football player, but it's
I love
like
Tyler Boyd.
They used the 5th overall pick in the draft on Jahmyr Chase to put Tyler Boyd essentially into a slot role. And that's where I think that's where Bell's ceiling lands, as a slot guy that's not playing on the outside, that's not giving you, I don't know, and I wrote an article, dropped it like a week or 2 ago. There are really 3 areas that you're looking for a wide receiver: a guy that can win inside, a guy that can win vertically, or a big guy that can be used in the red zone. And so you talk about Christian Watson, that's a guy that I know he can check 2 of those boxes at least, maybe even all 3 of those boxes. Whereas David Bell is a guy that I think can only check 1 of those boxes. And so when I'm projecting as a rookie and a wide receiver, like, I'm looking for somebody that can fill all of those roles, because that's what creates volume and that's what creates fantasy points.
His best chance at anything, his best outlook, in my opinion, is what we saw from Juju Smith-Schuster this past season. Like, he's going to be 5 yards and a cloud of dust. Like, that's it. Like, that's where he's going to be. He doesn't have an athletic profile to do anything other than that. He is a 5th receiver on a team, a 4th receiver if he's lucky. I wanted to like him. I was like, okay, this guy, his tape wasn't bad. I really, really wanted to like him, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
All right. Fair enough. I mean, we don't have to love everybody, and we're not supposed to. I mean, if we loved everybody and only named the good things about people, like, how can we be better? Truthful?
I mean,
how could our listeners be better? So thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Jeff. I am officially off of him. Thanks.
All right. So I don't know if Chef froze or not.
I'm going to go back. Am I frozen?
It looked like you were frozen for a little bit.
Maybe I was. I'm sorry, and I apologize. Maybe I will have to go back and reevaluate David Bell before any of my rookie drafts.
Read my article, Chef. I talked about David Bell. The article that I had.
Fair enough.
Football guys like a week
Just
ago.
Go look at his combine. It's so bad.
Well, if you don't like what you see, head over to Viridian Global, get some good-looking swag, sponsored by DHH. That's where you can find all the gear that we have. If you like the show, you like to support us, hit us up at Viridian Global. Also, and there's one more. If you are a nerd, and when I mean nerd, I mean Dynasty nerd. Go to dynastynerds.com and sign up for the Nerd Herd. Use code DHH for 15% off any subscription. Trade tools, extra Nerd Herd episodes, Prospect Film Room, which I know Tyler religiously uses, and Prospect Scores. Oh, don't even get me started on the Dynasty GM. If you do not have time to set your rosters, it is a gem. But before we get out of here, guys, Jeff, I want at least one guy that we did not talk about tonight who you are targeting later in drafts, say third round or later, that you really are confident on that can hit at the next level.
Khalil Shakur is a name that I think that he can really hit. I think he can do a lot of the different things that you're looking for out of a wide receiver. And so that's a guy that I'm going to be targeting later if he doesn't catch. He could catch higher draft capital than I think people realize, but that's a guy that I think that, you know, you're getting later in your third round. And I don't really, those later picks, like I don't love using them on a wide receiver because especially this class, I think that there are so many running backs that are alive and dead right now, both because they could, you know, there are a lot of different guys that can fill roles. Yeah,
a little bit of
but there's a lot of backs in this class that can fill roles. I mean, we saw Rex Burkhead as a feature back last year. There's a lot of opportunity in the NFL for running backs to come in and carve out a niche in a committee backfield, and I think that we're heading in that direction. But a lot of these guys in this class, I would use those picks on those. But if I were targeting a deeper wide receiver, Shakur.
Tyler, got anything to add?
Yeah, Justin Ross, big fan of him. I know his athletic profile didn't really pan out like we all thought, but it was fine. And in my opinion, I'm going to take a shot on somebody like that who has the pedigree, who had the early breakout, and who pretty much had an injury derail him. And I don't think he's 100% back. He says he is, but it's going to take him a little bit to get the oomph back. I mean, I think he would have tested a way better if it wasn't for his injury. So for me, I'm going to try to take a shot on a player like him. And he came back as well and played pretty well for Clemson this past season. Yeah. So for me, Justin Ross is mine. And just a late round guy, Calvin Austin, because he's fast. And I think he's just Tavon Austin reinformed and trying to make it again. Like Tavon Austin was like, you know what? I didn't make it one time. Let's refresh it. Maybe I'll change my name. I'll try to make myself look younger. And today's NFL, maybe I'll be better. And he just, Calvin Austin, because they're very similar, very explosive. But I think Calvin Austin can win in different ways than what we saw Tavon Austin win in college.
Nice. And since I am filling in for Doug at the host seat tonight, I will go out and say Wandale Robinson is definitely somebody that is on my list. Wandale.
I do like him, and man, the hype on him was so high early on, and then
and I'm glad that it calmed down a little bit because it can cool off.
Really good athlete.
Hey, that's fine, but we're talking later shots here. So if I have some later shots, some extra third round picks that I'm not going to be able to trade too much
than
for,
David Bell.
Yeah, I would rather have Wandale Robinson than David Bell after listening to both of you. It's Wandale. It's Wandale.
Is this another really nickname? Not. Are you messing with me?
It's really not.
Wandale.
Please,
it's Wandale.
Don't do that anymore.
Wandale Obi-Wan Kenobi.
There we go.
All right. Anyway, Jeff, thank you for coming on the show this evening, toying around with us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jeff, plug away whoever you want to rep. I know you're affiliated with a lot of people, a lot of shows. Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, footballguys.com. You can find my written work there, and just hopefully my role continues to grow, and I have a lot more content coming out through there. You can find me Tuesday nights, 7:00, coming off the edge with the one and the only chef himself and
the nickname curator himself.
That's right. And then 9:30 following that up Tuesday nights with the Devi Royale with Christian Williams. I'm sorry I said his last name wrong. I was Christian Watson in my mind, and then Kevin Coleman, two of my best friends in the space. So. Awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
No, we love having you.
It was fun. honestly, it was a great time, and I appreciate you coming through. Jeff, if you haven't met him in person, do so in Canton. He is very, very just true person.
Down to earth.
When you meet somebody and you just know who they are, and you're just like, this guy is just all about people.
One of the few guys I hugged at the expo last year.
He didn't hug me.
We'll have to get that next time around. I hugged everybody. I hugged some random dude in the bar that I thought was
he's just not part
Eddie
of the
Kane, and he was like, "Why are you hugging me?" And I was like, "Oh, you're
not
Kane." And he was like, "No, I'm not." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Well, do you see Kane around anywhere?"
He's just like, "Who's Kane?"
And Abel. Let's get out of here. Thank you for tuning into the Dynasty Happy Hour. I'm James at FF_Chef on Twitter. Tyler Gunther at DHH_Tyler on Twitter. And can't wait for next week when Doug Eddy comes back, so I do not have to do this again. Talk to you soon.
God.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Tyler.